Thank you, everybody. At this time, we'll go ahead and give the mic over to Mr. Thomas Cody, the Executive Director for Division of Social Services.
Good morning, Mary. Um, Thank you for being here. We have about 50 people also on the line. So thank you to those on the line. Oh yeah, the camera's over here. So thank you for those that are online, and also those in the room. Thank you. Yeah. So today we're really excited to share what we've been working on for the last couple of weeks, and it really coincides with our initiative of Yides Condensa Case Chinapa. It's really future thinking for our kids, future thinking our families, creating one voice, creating one team, one vision for our division. So as we're moving towards rebranding our Division of Social Services to a Division of Children and Family Services, this is just one of our initiatives that we started working on. I'd like to thank everybody for their efforts, their support, President Nygren for really allowing me to do what I think is right, what we think as a team that I work with at Social Service. They're really supportive of moving our division forward and making sure that we have programs that are improving. So, and then also the Oversight Committee, we met with the Oversight Committee. We received their blessing with a unanimous vote on our reports. So through our 477 initiative, we found that a new concept. It's for the Navajo Nation. I called our DOJ attorneys, asking them, has any of the Navajo Nation programs done this? They said no. I asked the Department of Health attorney. She said no. I reached out to Cordell Shorty, our OMB director, and again, no. So we're trekking new grounds here. So I'm so excited that we're doing it as social services. It's really to improve services for our children, to unite and strengthen our division programs and other departments, and hopefully the divisions, other divisions such as Division of Public Safety, the division directors here, Division of Human Resources, Workforce Development, they're on the line. So for being here. And Debbie Nez Manuel, the Director for Human Resources, will be here shortly. And the other piece is streamlining all programs. We want to streamline how many reports that we do, how many budgets that we have to do, is really creating one program, one contract under 477. It will also allow us to move things smoothly through and efficiently through our Navajo Nation government. Now we have to jump through several hoops as we're operating an $800 million program within the division. So the different budgets have different requirements. So hopefully, as we compile some of them under 477 contract, it will make it a lot easier. What I'd like for us to get out of 477 is to making a positive impact for our children and families. As I'm looking, I worked for Casey Family Programs, and as I was looking from outside, I could see a lot of the improvements that were necessary, that needed to be made. And I'm so glad the team, the department directors, are willing to move with me through this process, the president's support. So on the January 31st, we met with Oversight. They give us their unanimous approval to our reports. I want to thank Belle, Whitcomb, and Anthony Riley from BIA to working with us through this whole process, working with the team. They've really helped us move the project with leaps and bounds since we started a couple of weeks ago, and we look forward to our continued work with BIA. The other one is I look forward to working with the other division directors, the other programs, OMB, OOC. I think we'll learn this whole process together. We'll move our programs together. Hopefully, somebody from OOC and OMB are on the line also. Lastly, I'd like to thank the planning team, which are the program directors. They've come together weekly for the last couple of weeks. They've been meeting, going through the strikeouts, going through their plans, putting it into the 477 application. So, and then to our fearless leader, Mary Descheeny-Reyna, thank you for putting the group through, making sure they work. And then their co-lead is Deanna Neswit-Gishi. Deanna won't be joining us today because she's on travel. So yeah, thank you, program directors, for being here. And of course, Eagle Sun for making sure that we have this to record it, and we'll send it out to the Navajo Nation. I assured Speaker Curley that we'll send this out to the Navajo Nation Council, to the division directors, and also to the Office of the President and Vice President. So yeah, thank you for being here. And then thank you for being online. I truly appreciate your efforts. And then if you have questions, Mary will be looking at the chat. So if there's a question, just put it in the chat and we'll read your question out loud and provide those answers for you. So yeah, thank you, Mary.
Good morning, all of you there in person, and honorable committee members that are present, and our colleagues. I'm Deanna Neswit-Gishi, touching in a sense of goodness, but sitting in Jenny Basic say, Neswit touching this, Noah. I'm the department manager for Department of Child Care and Development. We also have some team members from Department of Child Care listening in today. Thank you, Director Cody, for allowing our line staff to listen in as we move forward to continue to have that two-way communication with our Division of Social Service team members. Then I also have our program manager, Natanya Kita, also listening in, who oversees all direct services. Thank you, Mary and Director Cody.
Two more introductions real quick. Could we have Andy Callum to introduce himself, and followed by that, Latanya Johnson from Department of Justice?
Hi, everybody. My name is Andy Collum. I'm a senior attorney with the Office of the Solicitor Division of Indian Affairs, and I've been working with Anthony, Belle, Ida Doyle, who's one of the other folks that part of the crew that Anthony supervises, involving 477 and Division of Workforce Development. I had the honor of working on developing what we ended up calling the skinny MOA, as compared to the old MOA that was far too many pages. And then working with Sam Cohn, who's a senior counselor, the Assistant Secretary in Indian Affairs, Catherine Isom Klaus, who's the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Policy Economic Development, and of course, Brian Newland, the Assistant Secretary. I've known him since his days when he was counselor during the Obama administration for Larry Echohawk. So it's been from my perspective as a lawyer. I also work. I worked a lot with Leroy Gishi over the years. Some of you may know him. He's the chief of BI's Division of Transportation, and one of the things that I've enjoyed most about working on the DOT stuff, as well as now with the folks in DWD, is I found that everybody is really committed to the work that they do, and as counsel for both the TTP or BIADOT, as well as these folks in DWD, that makes my work far more enjoyable than it would be if if it was anything different. So I'm joining by Zoom. I will apologize in advance. I am double and in one case triple booked today with meetings, but I wanted to be on this because I know the importance of it for DWD's folks. And obviously, if the nation decides to integrate, just even say 2 programs, right? That would, on a financial scale, that probably Anthony, almost minimum doubles the amount of money that would be moved through 477, which would just be amazing. But fundamentally, I think it would send a message across Indian country of how powerful 477 can really be. I think that message has grown a lot, especially with the commitment of this administration. And Ms. Isom Klaus and and Sam Cohn especially have been, hugely supportive and involved in such a positive way with all of this over the time that I've worked on it. And I know the solicitor's office leadership also has been very supportive. So, so good to meet everybody. And I'm going to go off camera, but I will be listening. And then Ray Belle, if there's something that comes up legally, and I don't happen to be here, please, because I might have to log off the Zoom because one of the other meetings I have is on a Zoom, but please text me and I will get on as soon as I can to answer the question if you wouldn't mind holding it in abeyance for a little bit, but I will definitely be responsive throughout the day.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen, for being with us. I'd like to give the invitation over to Latanya Johnson, followed by, I believe we have a representative from Navajo Workforce Development Manager. Could you follow with introductions after Latanya? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Latanya Johnson. I'm Assistant Attorney General with the Navajo Nation Department of Justice, and I provide legal assistance to Division of Social Services. My apologies that I wasn't able to join in person as I'm feeling under the weather, but I do appreciate the remote link to allow me to participate. Thank you.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me? This is Orlando Wanika.
Hi, yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate the Zoom invite as well. I too am under the weather today, so I'm joining from Zoom, everybody. I do have a couple of my team members joining as well on the call. My name is Orlando Wanika, Department Manager for Navajo Department of Workforce Development. My clan, Navajo, nanas as a Twachitni, Shlon, Tut Nizatli Bashishtin, Kia Ani Edashanella Hanagahi Edashache. So again, we're joining virtually as well, and I appreciate the invite and the time to listen in. Thank you.
Thank you again. Wakachanasit. I'm Belle Whitcomb. So I'm a Curyung member from Dillingham, Alaska, a long ways away. The law is called Public Law 102477 as amended. Public Law 102477 was enacted in 1992, and it was a demonstration project then. Literally, there were a group of 5 people that sat around a bar table on a napkin and wrote out what they wanted the government to be able to offer them, to serve things holistically on behalf of the services and the activities that they're providing on the government programs. And so there were 4 federal agencies participating during that demonstration: Department of Interior, Health and Human Services, Department of Labor, and Department of Ed. And it granted authority by the Secretary of the Interior to integrate federal programs involving employment, training, and related services to their members under a plan. It allowed tribes to redesign and reallocate funds from other sources to address tribal priorities in a single plan, single budget, and a single report under secretarial oversight. A huge benefit. So in December of 2000, it was amended and authorized expanded reprogramming authority to allow up to 25% of the combined federal funds towards economic development and job creation activities. And then the 2000 amendment also created a direct line between economic development and job creation and the workforce pool. So very key considerations there. And then finally, on December 18th of 2017, the final passage of the law took place, and it went through 4 separate Congresses to get that final law done. So I worked on that with the tribal work group and tribes across the nation for 12 years to help get that passed. And so it is no longer a demonstration project. It expanded the number of federal agencies from 4 to 12. So this is the main purpose of the 477. It's to facilitate the ability of tribes and tribal governments to integrate the employment, training, and related services they provide from diverse federal sources to improve the effectiveness of those services, to reduce joblessness in Indian communities, and serve tribally determined goals consistent with the policy of self-determination, while reducing administrative, reporting, and accounting costs. And there's a citation right down here on the bottom of it. So the original partners in this. When it was the demonstration, there was only 4. It was labor, interior, health and human services, and education. And so now you can see the 12, which is Department of Agriculture, Department of Commerce, Department of Education, Department of Energy, Health and Human Services, Homeland Security, Housing and Urban Development, Labor, Justice, Transportation, and Veterans Affairs. We don't know all of the federal programs that tribes have. It's up to you to tell us which federal programs you would like to integrate. This is your choice. This is your voice. This is your plan. Okay, so highlights of the law. There was a development of an interagency memorandum of agreement, which was signed by the heads of all 12 agencies. All of them signed off on this. It set an annual meeting of tribes and federal agencies to be co-chaired by a tribal representative and representative of the president. And upon tribal request, mandates the transfer of all 477 funds through existing Indian Self-Determination Assistance Act, or PL 9338, or known as ISDA. So that can go through 638 contracts or or OSG compacts. And I know that Navajo Nation is 638. So notwithstanding any other provisions of law, it transfers all 477 planned grant funds from other agencies to the BIA. And it mandates that this should occur within 30 days after either 1, the apportionment of the funds to the agency, or approval of a plan or an amendment. So that's significant. It gives a standard review and timelines for agencies to act on requested waivers or statutory and regulatory and administrative provisions for programs integrated under 477. It gave strict timeline for secretarial actions on proposed plans to be within 90 days. And if with an automatic approval, if the secretary fails to act. So it's very strict. And it bars any requirement that tribes maintain separate record keeping, tracking, or auditing of 477 plan funds received by original source of the program, also known as a catalog of federal domestic account number, as well as applications of any contrary OMB circular. So there is an OMB compliance supplement that goes along with the law that supports integration and commingling and how you report. It's very significant. And another wonderful part about 477, any carryover funds remains available for obligation or expenditure without fiscal year limitations. No longer do you return unspent money to the federal program at the end of your grant period or your plan period. You keep the money and it stays with the plan until expended. Huge difference. So the authority of the Secretary of the Interior, this is how and why I'm here. The Secretary of the Interior shall have exclusive authority to approve or disapprove a plan submitted by an Indian tribe. So that authority comes to the U.S. Department of the Interior. The Secretary delegates it to the Assistant Secretary of the Indian Affairs, and then who pushes it off to the Bureau of Indian Affairs, Office of Indian Services, Division of Workforce Development. And that's the program that Anthony and I and 5 others are under. So the law has very specific, or the MOA as well, has very specific information on waiver, review, and approval. 25 USC 3406D, which in general says, except as provided in paragraph 2, notwithstanding any other provision of law, the head of each affected agency shall waive any applicable statutory, regulatory, or administrative requirement, regulation, policy, or procedure promulgated by the agency that has been identified by the parties under that subparagraph B. We're on the transfer of funds through Indian self-determination. And so this is the same thing I stated on a slide or 2 ago that just shows that upon request, tribal request that it mandates that all 477 funds go through ISDA. So currently what you're doing is Navajo manages separate grants, and you have to go into the separate grant website or fund site to get your grant applied for. And then you go to that agency's funding stream to pull your money down. 477 revisits that whole concept. What happens is the funding comes through to the Department of Interior, then we send it out, and it's only related to federal funds. So tribes and tribal organizations decide on what programs that they want to administer under 477. This is your choice. The law requires a minimum of 2 federal programs to be integrated. Right now, under Director Cody's supervision and working with his wonderful program managers and directors, they're looking at a variety of services that are federally funded to be put under 477. So again, tribes and tribal organizations determine how they want their program to be running, and you align it with your either your self-governance compact or your 638 contract. So the next slide is the new MOA submission and review timeline. So this actually comes into play once a plan is submitted to the Department of Interior. We're not at that stage yet for Navajo. They're still developing their plan, but this is the process. And we talked about very strict timelines. On day 1 that we receive a plan, we have to give a receipt of plan, which actually starts a 90-day review period. Very key dates. Within 5 days, tribes are notified that the plan is received, and we also submit that to the affected agencies. So if you have a plan that has TANF that comes through Department of Health and Human Services, they're notified. If you have child care development, that's also an agency within Health and Human Services. But if you have a Department of Labor grant or a Department of Interior welfare assistance program, we notify the corresponding person that's responsible for that program review. Then on day 45, between day 5 and day 45, the affected agency has to review the plan to see if it meets needs or if they have comments, questions, or concerns. And so they get back to the Department of Interior. The Department of Interior is the lead agency working directly with the 12 affected federal partners to ensure that your plan would comply. If there's comments, questions, or concerns that aren't addressed in the plan that the agency wants to revisit, then we'll invite Navajo and the federal agency to discuss those. But hopefully the plan is written in such a manner that most of those things are already addressed, because we've dealt with the programs that Navajo is potentially looking at have all been either approved or currently under review for approval. So we've got an existing structure of where there's been comments, questions, or concerns. So between day 45 and day 75, that's that's where the tribes and the federal government and BIA certainly would be dealing with those issues. And by day 75, if that lead federal agency does not give us a recommendation for integration, then we begin drafting our decision. And by day 89, one day before, we tell that affected agency what our decision is going to be. And on day 90, we issue and transmit the decision to the Indian tribe or Navajo and the affected agency. Very key timelines. It forces the agencies to stay within the boundaries of this nation-to-nation relationship and approving of this plan. And there is nothing in PL 477 that requires the agencies to take up to the full 90 days. If we had a plan that was submitted and everything was correct and 45 days later, we get a decision, by gosh, we're going to generate a letter and get that plan approval out the door as quick as we can. We don't delay. And we're very fortunate to have leadership, and Mr. Andy Cullum's online and Anthony Riley We take these dates very seriously. We are held and are responsible for maintaining these. So right now, this is a tribal process for developing a plan. First off, a tribe is awarded federal grants. You cannot include a proposed project that you have not received an award notification for that federal grant. You cannot integrate state programs or other Navajo, like your casino money, into this plan. That's not allowable. These are only federal program integrations. So how do people understand about 477? How do they learn about it? Leadership submits a letter of intent to request if they want to develop a 477 plan for a $25,000 planning grant. You have to have at least 2 federal programs to propose to go under 477. If you only have one, I'm sorry. We have tribes right now that have 18 plus federal programs. We have tribes that only have 2. It's a tribal choice. How big or how small depends on your relationship between your agency. And I'm especially proud that the Division of Social Services, you're under Director Cody, that he's taken this opportunity to realign it. I mean, to look at realignment of how services go out the door. So again, the tribe must be in receipt of federal grant. You can't be a subrecipient. So if, I'll just say, Cook Inlet Tribal Council gives Navajo Nation a subgrant, you can't include that one in the plan because you're not the primary grant recipient. And in developing a plan, you determine the timeline and you try to align it with how your fiscal cycle works. Do you run on a calendar cycle? Do you run on a fiscal cycle? The opportunity right now that Mary and Director Cody is looking at is on a fiscal cycle opportunity. We continue as BIA to provide technical assistance. Our time is your time. We attend meetings with you and we develop based on grant criteria. Then we work directly with your federal partners under the proposed plan. If I have some questions, and because your plan might look more unique than another one, we could go to the affected agency and let them help work on the plan together. But it doesn't have to happen that way. This is your plan and you provide it appropriately. BIA reviews 477 plan reporting requirements. Things do change under 477. 477 has only one annual report a year. Many of your grants have quarterly reports, both financial, statistical, or a narrative section. 477 as a whole, the whole plan has one reporting cycle, one financial, one statistical, and one narrative, talking about all of the federal programs that you intend to integrate under 477. And then here comes the opportunity. Once the tribe or Navajo decides to submit a plan, then a 90-day clock starts. So if a 477 plan is to be integrated to be effective on 10/1, by June 30th, we would have to have that plan at our door for 90-day review to be effective 10/1. So here are some benefits of becoming a 477 tribe. Allows tribes to design a program to address the tribal needs. It uses a single plan, a single budget, and single report to a single federal office. That single plan comes to the Department of Interior, and we work with all the federal agencies under that plan. It lowers administrative costs, allows tribes to provide more services with lower overhead. What does that mean? It means right now, your OMB folks, your grants and contracts people, for every grant that you have, they're reporting. Some are monthly, some are quarterly, some are annually. So they're doing a lot of reporting. by each of those grants. 477, one report time once annually. So less reports for financial staff. It supports tribal sovereignty. It allows you to make a plan to address your unique culture, your unique needs on how you provide your services throughout your service area. It offers an opportunity to do a simplified intake for multiple levels of service instead of going to many doors, many locations. It enhances client services by allowing creation of a one-stop shop ability for services. Eliminates silos that are providing similar yet different services, but different location. It eliminates duplications of services. So if a person's getting school clothing in one location and another, they know they can go to another location for school clothing, you talk together better. And maybe the amounts are adjusted to reflect the benefit of both programs, but you're serving it as a whole, holistic opportunity for that individual or the family. It streamlines record keeping and retention. Right now for those individual grants, we'll say TANF and childcare, you have a file for that individual that walks in the door that's receiving that service. You have a file for the childcare. You have duplications of information on that client and the services being offered. With 477, you can just have one plan. So tribes and tribal organizations have greater flexibility for implementation of economic development, job creation. Your unique needs and your unique location, there are certain economies that maybe that you want to work on within your plan. The law allows up to 25% of combined federal fundings towards economic development. You would need to list it in a high-level overview of what your activities and services that you want to focus on within that plan to address the economic opportunities. Say in Window Rock, Mary, what would be a good economic venture for Navajo to invest in, to help tribal members to create jobs? Anybody in the room? Unfortunately, we can't do that. Very strict laws against illegal substances in the federal eyes. You can't use federal government funds towards for cannabis production, distribution, all of that. So unfortunately, no. Commercial transportation. Tourism. So if you focus on certain areas that might need some added benefit and you create the opportunities and list that within your plan, you have the ability to spend money towards that opportunity. It creates a direct line between economic development and job creation in the workforce pool. Again, all funds transfer from to DOI from all of the federal partners approved in the plan. No longer do you have to go to those separate funding agencies to Health and Human Services to upload a TANF grant submission in OLDC. The plan comes Department of Interior, it's one time, and then we send you the money. Department of Health and Human Services sends the money to the Department of Interior, and we send it out in a 638 contract. You don't have to go into their system to get the money. We send it to you in your normal process that you're used to. Significantly reduced individual agency reports. And then another benefit, there's a single point of contact with BIA and the federal partners, where your advocate, where your Secretary of the Interior has the overall authority of your plan for the approval. Big difference. So again, with a single budget, it allows multiple federal sources to be commingled. And this diagram that's shown on here, 477 is the big green bucket in the middle. Some programs are small, so you have limited ability to provide the services because you're probably spending a lot on staff salaries and you just don't have the money to expend on the actual services. Well, some budgets are a little bit more. The other part of it's really on timing. Sometimes the money comes in at the beginning of the year. Sometimes it's at the middle of the year, or maybe finally you get your money towards 3/4 into the fiscal year. With 477, your money is there. You can provide the activities and services at the start of your plan through the continuum of your plan. The money comes into one and it's one budget. So again, allows multiple federal sources to be commingled. Funding timelines, there's small and large allocations from different budgets. This is the best part, I feel. No obligation and liquidation timelines. And carryover is allowed until expended for activities and services that are listed in the plan. And that's why the plan is written broadly. It lists a lot of activities and services by the different programs that you're integrating. But you don't have to do the, like childcare, 1-year obligation, 2-year liquidation. You never send money back to the federal government. It stays with the plan. Difference between grant approval and plan approval. First, again, I can't state this enough. Tribes have to be awarded a grant by the affected agency before it's eligible for integration. We have tribes that submit a plan because I applied for a grant and I don't know. I'm applying on June 30th and I won't know if my award hits until end of August. It's going to be an automatic denial on that program because you're not awarded it yet. You have to receive word that you've been awarded the grant, and then the acceptance process can come through and funnel the money through 477. So tribes must maintain grant eligibility with the affected agency. And what I mean by that is for the child count, the CCDF program, you're required to submit triennial child counts on children from birth through age 12 on a 3-year basis. You have to submit an annual FASR report for the welfare assistance funding, but that's only 1 report a year. And I know that many tribes are reporting that monthly or if not quarterly right now. You have to continue to submit the electronic FTANF reports. That's outside of the 477 report. And that's on their FTANF data site. You are required still to submit your Johnson O'Malley counts. That's what determines your funding levels. And if you put a competitive grant in there, say a Department of Labor dislocated worker grant, that was a competitive one, if you have to reapply for it every 3 years and then get it, then you put it in there. The American Indian Vocational Rehabilitation Services grant is a competitive 5-year grant. The Department of Justice CTAS grants are 3 or 5-year grants. So you would have to reapply for those and ensure that you receive the next level of funding for that. But then you can have it integrated back in there. The nice part about 477 is once your plan's approved, you work with the Department of Interior again to do plan amendments. So if you want to add another program later on, once the 90-day process is done with, then you can amend it should you want to. Tribes plans have been historically 3 years, but in the last year and a half, they're 5 years. There's nothing in the law to say how long a plan can be. So this is a paradigm shift on how tribes are considering 477. When I talk about a paradigm shift, it's a change of mentality on I received this grant and this is the only things I can do. And sometimes the elbows come out and I can't do this and stay away from my program and I want to manage it. And I serve from birth to age 12 in my program, but yet Another program serves from birth through adulthood to get them to work, but those two might not talk together very well. So the paradigm shift is how you see services, and the realignment, the rebranding that Director Cody and his staff are doing now is really key. Share the resources, serve the family holistically, serve them to make sure that their needs are met, but while ensuring that they're staying self-reliant. So encourage their self-sufficiency to get off of assistance, but give them the opportunities at the front when they walk in the door. So we can see on the screen. So what I'm talking about is different components. When we talk about a paradigm shift, we're talking about grants have certain components when you apply for them, such as education, work-related, cash assistance, there's childcare, quality care, stable families, supportive services, disabilities. The list goes across. You serve youth or adults. That's how typically you look at grants, how you're going to serve them. And then there's a variety of activities that happen under there. So for education, you have higher ed, GED, language, maybe it's culture, job search, tutoring, career tech, certification, soft skills, resume, ACT prep, FAFSA, taxes, finance, very long list. The components for work-related, you have subsidized work, unsubsidized work, job training, internship, work-related, maybe attire, resume, you practice interviews. Maybe if the person's trying to start a business, you give them that, or entrepreneurship help. For cash assistance, you have this activity as well: job search, subsidized, unsubsidized, volunteering, cultural activities. For childcare, the activities you're serving for relatives, for home care providers, for a daycare, a center, but you're serving at-risk kids as well. For quality, you have curriculum, language, culture, car seats, fire extinguishers, playgrounds, health, safety, parenting, at-risk kids. For stable families, fatherhood initiative, camp, subsistence, hunter safety, cultural activities, family reunification, family violence. And then there's a wide list of support services that come with grants, such as non-recurring short-term benefits, work boots, car repairs, fees, transportation, gas, equipment, utilities, work clothes, school clothes, services for absent parents, services for prevention of pregnancy, parenting skills, family violence, individual development accounts. The disabilities, of course, those are defined by the tribes, but you're serving that individual with a disability to make them either self-sufficient or to address their disability so they can gain work. Youth activities, children, 6 weeks of age or birth, in my opinion, to age 3 with childcare with certain classroom sizes, or 6 to age 12. And then youth with Department of Labor serves 14 to 24, or just children in general that might be on a family TFAP plan, a temporary assistance to needy families plan. Adults, are you serving them at age 18? But adults go all the way up through the elderly. Economic development, the same thing: business startup loans, entrepreneurship, job creation. Construction, you have major, minor renovation, and you have to address health and safety concerns. When we look at grants, and we talked about all of the different components that they serve, different grants serve the same activities, and that's what's called the paradigm shift under 477. So your WIOA grant, it has an education component. It has a work-related, it has childcare opportunities to pay for it. It allows support services. It serves youth and adult. The National Dislocated Worker Grant, it has an education and a work-related, also support services. It serves youth and adults. The DOL Employment Disability Initiative, it also has education, work-related. It offers childcare, support services. It has a disability component. It serves youth and adults. Let's go down a little further. Keep going. So oh, let's actually go up just a little bit so you can just see the temporary assistance. One more down. So the heating assistance program, LIHEAP, it has an education factor in there because you teach people about energy conservation in their home. It has a work opportunity if you're doing the weatherization program under LIHEAP. And of course, it's a support service because it may pay for the heating and the cooling of the person that's applying. The community services block grant has an education or a work related, and it's a support service. It's how you decide to align that service for Navajo Nation. Childcare development. So you can see we're starting to align with now these different federal grants that would make sense for integration under 477, because right now people are going to this office and this office and this office and this office and this office. And darn it, I got here too late. Now I have to come back again next week. Or they're out of money this week. I can't have it until next month or the next time we get the money. This is the paradigm shift to 477. So 477, you're moving from traditional silos where you have multiple locations and doorways to enter to receive your services. Your clients are submitting multiple applications for each service. Multiple times that they're providing their personal tribal information to you, and you repeatedly have to get it because darn it, I lost it this week. Because I've got, I got 50 people that came in last week and I'm busy and I'm missing one document in many locations. 477 in its concept, it's a one-stop. It doesn't mean only one person's there to help them. It means your opportunity is to open multiple services. We call it the front end of service and then the back end. The person that comes in, they see a receptionist or somebody there that's helping them. They get an application. They might require some supporting documentations with it. Then there's an intake person that asks them questions and understands what their barriers and their needs are for that day, for that particular visit. And you provide a comprehensive approach to providing the services. You offer cohesive individual and family plans of services. Right now, with your ICWA, you go to their office and a family is in distress and, are facing, they're pretty poor. So you're helping them get TANF assistance. You have an ICWA plan because you're trying to keep that family together. And then they have to go to the TANF plan. To get TANF assistance, then they create a TANF plan. So that's another office. And does the plans look similar? Are they different? So, and then you have to go to a different office to get childcare because your TANF grant's not approved yet, but I can put my kid into childcare center today because I'm in need. So you have another plan for there. And then you have another service that this adult just needs 2 more credits to graduate high school. Can I get some education help? So I have to go to another office for that level of service. 477, if you think about it, you offer cohesive individual services or an individual family plan that doesn't compete against each other. Does your ICWA plan compete against what TANF says? TANF says I have to do 40 hours this week and I've got to go to these 3 locations yet, but I have to meet with tribal court. I have to ensure that my kid's back in school. Are they talking together? 477 in its concept would make you align your services so that everything is more cohesive on the family, not to make it necessarily easier, but beneficial that they can make some progress to get their goals accomplished. On the back end, what you code their services for, they don't know about that. They didn't have to walk into the childcare office to get childcare. They didn't have to walk into the ICWA office to help with reunification to get their kids back and then go to TANF to get the TANF grant. They don't know that all of that money is coming from these different sources. That's the back end of it. The client doesn't know what budget pays for that service. 477, single plan, single budget, single report. That's the benefit. So again, the opportunities, a single budget, less coding, less overhead for coding staff time. So right now, if in ICWA, if you have 3 different grants and your staff are working on that, you have to cost allocate their salary. So at that, HR's got to be involved, and you got to have the codes for them to be attached to that budget. Finance got to know those codes, and then you would cost allocate time. Under 477, the person's coded to 477, and he's doing all of these activities and services that is needed, but it's still wages. It's one wage line item, or 3 if you need to, however Navajo would break that out. But it's one budget, because you're reporting it only to the Department of Interior on our financial report, not the individual ones that go to the federal agencies. Big difference, big shift. You're able to meet, actually, the next part is you're able to cross-train staff. Right now, if you have a staff that's processing a welfare assistance benefit and that person's out, if you have welfare assistance and TANF under the same thing, the information, the training, and the income needs are similar because welfare assistance mirrors TANF. So your TANF person that's doing the eligibility can actually process a welfare assistance benefit. Still coded to 477. You don't have to cost allocate it to the welfare assistance line item. So cross-training the staff. You have locations that only one program operates out of. Your staff in those single operation buildings can be cross-trained to provide the other services. So you're able to meet multiple needs for a client based on need. It avoids the duplication of services. Less hard files on clients by all the programs. You can move completely electronic. We have, I think, 7 or 8 fully electronic tribes running 18 different programs, and they don't have a hard file one. So investment of funds, this is key. You can take the combined federal funding that you receive and invest the drawdowns into an interest-bearing account and gain interest. That interest could be reflected back to the back to the plan for the activities and services are there. Right now, you don't have that opportunity. So the $30 million TANF grant that you receive, you can invest the $30 million into an interest-bearing account, spend out the oldest dollars. How much interest would that be getting in a year? A pretty significant sum. And that would offer you the ability to serve other activities and services, or maybe pay rent, because I've heard of the arm's length agreement that Navajo Nation receives with HHS funds. That would help pay the rent, open up new office places. Other types of activities that you would deem appropriate that would be listed in the plan's activities and services. There are some challenges. First off is learning what 477 is. Education of auditors. Right now you have each federal program, large federal program, has its own audit. 477 gets audited as a whole, one whole budget. So it changes that dynamic. Your finance people to learn our 2 CFR Part 200, the cluster, where it actually proves that you don't have to monitor it by CDFA number or CFDA number. There's a change in how you report prior, what you're currently doing, and how you report after a plan is approved, learning the 477 report forms. But we walk you through that. Prior to 477, you have all these quarterly reports again. Now, really, you can do it annually. One time a year. How wonderful. But gives you opportunity to continue to look and apply for other competitive grants at the same time. So that's a challenge. Some affected agencies may tell you that they require 1 year of grant operation prior to integration of 477. Malarkey. It's your choice. You receive a federal grant, and if you have not drawn the money down from the federal coffers on that grant, you can submit a plan amendment to integrate it under 477. It would go through a 90-day review process again, should you want to change it. And some of the challenges, a plan is a broad overview, but it needs to also be supported by the policies and procedures of those individual programs to ensure fair and equitable consideration for your client services, but putting those together. That could be seen as a challenge. I consider that as an opportunity for wonderful cross-training. A tribe must decide which federal grants to integrate. I like the opportunity that under Director Cody's plan here, he's taken his division. He's not pushing it out to other divisions. He's taken his because it makes most sense for his. He wants it to be effective because the client to receive all the different levels of services. What's your methodology for integration? His department, logistics, office space, stability. When I talk about stability, are you doing it when you know somebody's retiring? Hopefully that program still continues. So you want to just think about that. And the timing of the integration. You know, are you going to start that this year in this fiscal cycle or next fiscal cycle for thinking about that? Because again, it's a 90-day process when we receive a plan. So you have to back think. What documents do I have to get ready for my organization to ensure that I have a complete package when I submit it? Existing services versus enhancement of services. I think that's a positive and a challenge. Administrative cost considerations. When we talk about that, I understand that there are limitations with individual grants, and learning the process under 477 might be a little bit different. And the bottom line, acceptance of change for the benefit of tribal members. The elbows got to come down. These are not my programs, but these are our programs. And your tribal member here should actually be able to have the same level of services depending on where they're at. They should be open. So this slide just talks about collaboration between BIA, the affected agency, and the plan. So BIA becomes the lead federal agency when a plan is approved, but we don't lose ground with the other parts. We review renewals and amendments and tribal plan submissions and the waivers that come in, but we also monitor program announcements from all of these agencies still. We're another eye and ear. We pay very diligent attention to program instructions, to any kind of final ruling that's coming out. We offer technical assistance. If an agency sends you well, we need this report now, as we say, you can go kick rocks because 477 says there's no additional reporting. But we do know when I say that, the GOM counts have to come in. The child counts have to come in. We offer meetings. There's an annual federal and tribal partner meeting. There are sometimes monthly and federal and tribal meetings together. We host national training conferences. The next National NINETEC conference is May 14th through the 17th, and it's in Orlando, Florida, where there'll be a variety of 477 training along with the 12 affected agencies. This conference is huge. Each of these different agencies will have their trainings there as well. Huge opportunity. And again, the federal program requirements. So when child counts are due, we send emails. We make sure that you're not going to lose space. We'll let you know when JOM counts are up. We work if the TANF program is integrated under it. We get notification if the FTANF report is late. We're just an extra set of eyes and ears for you. And then, of course, when childcare reallotment funds are going to be presented. We understand that and we know the timelines, and we work directly with Office of Childcare to ensure that the reallotment money, if the boxes are selected on that child count, is done. So here's some pretty powerful stats. This is in FY23. Out of the 574 federally recognized tribes, we have 298 participating in 477. So 51.9% of all federally recognized tribes are being served under 477 now. In how many plans? 78. It's amazing. We pushed through 383 million in FY23. That was transferred as of the end of the year. Out of those 78 plans, we have 35 that are 638 contracts and 43 that are OSG compacts. This is the most powerful number here on the bottom. Individual federal programs from the 12 affected agencies, we are moving to 78 plans, 544 line items of federal funding. And guess how many annual reports we get? 78. So no longer would you do your, well, I shouldn't say no longer. When you integrate 477, the amount that transfers under 477 goes under one annual report. If you have carryover money that is not integrated under 477, you still have to comply with that reporting, but you don't lose $477. So it should gear you to spend out your oldest money first. Close out those books. Don't lose the money. Quit reporting. Use that money up first. Now it's questions and answers. So this slide here is all of the affected federal agencies. So under each of, so BIA, this is Department of Interior, BIA, welfare assistance, social services, ICWA, there's forestry, there's all kinds of federal programs under BIA, Department of Interior. Health and Human Services, you have a variety of them. But when we talk about, we deal with the heads of the affected agency, this is Health and Human Services.
Would you be able to share some examples and not give maybe specific tribes, but how they've integrated some of these?
Sure. We have one of the tribes that, of course, they have their adult basic ed, Johnson O'Malley, and higher ed tribal scholarships in their plan. They have childcare development, TANF, they have Title 4B. They have WIOA, adult and youth. They have dislocated workers. They have a justice grant here. The size of a plan just requires 2 federal programs. It could be 2 separate federal agencies, but it might be 2 programs under BIA. Johnson O'Malley and higher ed. They're 2 separate federal funding lines. Or it might be job placement and training. But we have a tribe that has 18 different federal pockets of money. And they're dealing with 7 agencies. So did you hear that? Wow, great idea. Too many families are given the runaround. It's an opportunity. Yes, it's a challenge. It seems big. It seems a lot like there's still a lot of work to do. There is work to do. But the program managers under your family and children's services now are working collectively together, and to hear what they're doing, and then to learn about what their other programs within their own division are doing, they're starting to see the similarities. And the cultural opportunities. Culture is an economic opportunity. That's part of the tourism. Maybe the economic thing is the transportation to ensure that that continues. Those things are within your realm. So right now we've started working on a plan within an outline, and Mary has been coordinating the program managers and division directors to input their information. And I'm excited. I really am. I'm really excited to see how much information is there and how willing staff are to provide that and give their constructive feedback on it. It's an opportunity. Anthony, would you like to offer anything else in this presentation?
You're talking about the federal partner collaboration and or consolidation of multiple federal programs. Yes, like Raybell said, we got one tribe that has 7 of the 12 participating federal agencies. 7 represents, I don't know, multiple programs. And I think Raybell went over this, once a plan is approved, the federal agencies have a timeline to transfer the funds to the BIA through Treasury. The BIA has another timeline to make sure that the tribes get their fundings through a 60-day contract, or it's transferred over to the OSG compact. So the flow of funds is, although you're coming in with multiple colors of funds, once it is turned over to the tribe, it's tribal funds. It's no longer federal funds. It's the tribe's funds. Those funds spent according to the approved plan. So however the nation creates their plan, the strategic plan, any and all services associated with that approved plan are provided. So, tribes funds, federal funds come at different times of the year. We're just now processing TANF, another transfer fund. So we're doing that right now. And then we'll be getting Department of Labor funds later this year. BIA and other funds have been transferred, not all, but some. So as soon as we are notified, funds are transferred to, in this case, hopefully in the future, the Navajo Nations, the 60-day contract, and it loses its identity. It's really key that it's no longer commerce funds, it's no longer HHS funds or education funds. It's Navajo Nations 477 funds, your tribal funds. And the key is that once those funds are transferred, there's no way to return that funds. You keep those funds until you expend it all. So you just need to understand that process, much different than if you were operating in a silo program. I know funds from HHS, only so much is allotted. And if you don't spend those funds, then they sweep those funds. A lot of tribes who are non-477 run into that predicament. And the neat thing about it is that tribes who participate in those programs, who have consolidated those programs that have a liquidation obligation requirement, those funds, once they're liquid, are if they're not spent, they go back to the agencies or the federal agencies, and then redistribute through a reallotment. And we encourage all our 477 tribes to sign up for the reallotment funds, because then they get additional funds on top of that. So it's very beneficial, depending on the size of the tribe, to operate in a 477 or participate in 477. So you have more flexibility, and all you're doing is try to reduce the amount of administrative oversight, try to reduce the application process, so that you're providing services for the duration of that performance of the 477 plan, you're providing services. And that's most important. It's getting that service to your people in your areas. So that's all I got to offer at this time. Thank you, Belle.
How are you doing? This is Clara Cicciarello, and I'm with the workforce program. I have a question. Since we're doing this planning and presentation, my recommendation to Navajo Nation might be to develop some type of task force to review all this information and start the planning from there. Thank you.
I will leave that, Director Cody has been the initiative driver behind this effort, and I know that he's spoken on his division. And we're here to assist as needed.
Ms. Cicciarello, yeah, I think that we've left the planning process to the division directors. So for the Division of Social Services, we're moving forward with our 477 plan. So now that the opportunities out there, we realize that we can include other programs from the other divisions. That's why we're doing the Navajo Nation 477 meeting. So that was going to be my question right now, Ray. When, let's take for example, if Debbie Naz Manuel or the director decided to hop on our work of putting Department of Workforce as part of the first initiative that we're doing, when should they hop on our bandwagon?
The current process where you're going through each of the program managers, the directors, they've been providing their input and their outline. The working within one division is, at this stage, I think a little bit easier to get your division plan approved and then look at the opportunities for further expansion. Because once you get the first plan approved, and you get your feet wet and you start understanding the processes and the flow, because you're creating a new road here within Navajo, getting that down where you're feeling comfortable with it, then you can look at further integration at another time and put a plan amendment to add them in. And you would have already your opportunities. And then, you've aligned your services and activities, and then you'd look at how to integrate their services and activities. Anthony?
Right, but I was just going to mention that the plan amendment process can be amended at any time. So some tribes want to start small. Then as they get comfortable, like Belle said, with the process, because it's a paradigm shift. I think she may have went over that. A paradigm shift for a lot of tribal folks, and involves people who have been doing it one way, now are doing it in a consolidated effort. It takes time to understand, yes, this is actually what you can do with this law, and then as you get good at it, kind of like riding a bike, right? You put on your training wheels. Eventually, you're going to take the training wheels off. Then you can start looking inward at your nation to see how, if it makes sense to integrate other programs. So either way, depending on, I guess, the tribal leadership call at the end of the day, how they want to move forward with this. And it only takes two federal programs. I think Mr. Cullum was very clear on that. It only takes two programs to consolidate, and tribes have done that. They started with two, and now they have 8. they're looking at other programs to integrate. So just thought I'd throw that out. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Andy. The law does not require that a tribe submit all the programs it thinks it might want to do. As Anthony and Ray Belle said, it does require that the law uses is the word programs is plural. So the legal interpretation of that has meant that if you're going to integrate, right, the idea is integrating. Well, I think the basic notion is you can't, quote, integrate one thing, right? So we do require a minimum of 2 programs. And like Anthony said, there's no limit on when a tribe can amend their plan. I mean, I think just from a practical perspective, obviously, if the initial plan is submitted for 2 programs, you'd want to wait until the plan was hopefully approved, and then anytime after that, you can amend it to add a program. Or there have been times where, say, a tribe had a grant, like say a one-time grant, or what is the grant? Is it NACTEP? Anthony, what does that stand for? Native American
Career and Technical Education Program.
Yeah, that comes from DOT, and they're not DOT, Department of
DOT.
Education, right?
Yeah, Ed.
Education. There was a tribe some time ago that had applied for that, and then for whatever reason internally, they did not apply to renew it or in the next round. So they no longer receive those funds. Well, the tribe then they're obligated, and the 477 folks obviously keep track, very, very close track of this themselves. But then the tribe's obligated to send in an amendment to their plan that drops, in that case, NACTEP. But there's no limit on when a tribe can amend. I mean, practically, if you have an amendment pending, it's probably best to wait until there's been action on that one way or the other before submitting another amendment. But that's really something that's just up to the discretion of the tribe. Once you have your, first, even submitting a 477 plan at all, right? But then in the future, if you find that it's working well for the nation, then you want to add additional programs that are eligible, then you're welcome to submit an amendment anytime.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you for your presentation. What we'll do now is the Navajo Nation will now present the plan that we've been working on for actually about 2 months now. So Mary will walk us through the whole planning process, and the Navajo Nation will actually present the plan we're currently working on. The other piece is we really want to make this a very informative session. So once we're done here, we're going to send it out to our tribal leadership, to the division directors, Office of the President, and those individuals that are going to be part of our division's initiative. So remember, we're currently just focusing on the Division of Social Services, and I wanted Ray and others to explain how the amendments work. So workforce development, other programs can join the Navajo Nation 477 contracting, but for now, we're focusing just on the Division of Social Service programs.
Okay, thank you for joining us. As it was mentioned before from Director Cody, we're going to walk through where the Division of Social Services is at. Okay, so this is a really good quote that was found. The 477 program is widely viewed as a strong way for tribes to exercise their sovereignty over their spending of federal funding related to tribal jobs and related programs. So I think this was echoed a lot with what Belle was indicating, which is how this really helps us do our own plan for our own people to serve them as we feel that works best for us. This is going to tie into a really good picture for our division. As mentioned in Mr. Cody's welcoming this morning, we met with the HESI committee on January 31st. We presented our plan of operations and our rebranding that is occurring. So as it pertains to this slide here, everything that is in blue are the division's programs that will be participating in the 477 program. There is one program that is not participating, and that's because they are a state-funded program. Those that are italicized or that are dotted, the 4 and as well as the name, are going to be part of our rebranding efforts. With the division, we're going to be changing the naming of these respective programs. Not too many big changes, but they are there. This slide, as Belle had mentioned, are the funding sources that are all going to be included as it pertains to the Division of Social Services. It's going to include these under HHS and these under the Department of Interior. So as you can tell, as she's mentioned, several reporting, several much work that needs to be done for each of these. Now, all of this is going to be one reporting that's going to occur. So this slide here is going to share a little to the due diligence that we had gone through as a division. So back in November of 2023, Director Cody received the ACF press release dated October 25th in regards to information to 477. We began looking at it at that time. He also had discussions with former DSR department manager, Roxanne Gorman, who was also interested in this idea several years back. So he was well aware of this opportunity for the Navajo Nation. Going on to November 3rd, we inquired with the Department of Justice. They did indicate that there was no prior history of 477 being implemented with the Navajo Nation. November 15th, we met with Margaret Zentek. She's with Citizen Potawatomi. I really encourage everyone to Google her because she is the co-chair of the 477 work group. That's what I did, and I was fascinated by all the work that she'd done. She testified before Congress at least 3 times in the past 15 years. So I had the opportunity to meet her, and she's a huge advocate for all of this in benefiting us tribes. November 17th, we invited Mr. Anthony Riley, the acting chief of workforce development, to attend a manager's meeting. So this is where it was first introduced to our management team. Continuing on into December. So there's a lot of activity that's occurring here. On to December 18th, we as Division of Social Services hosted the Winter Symposium for our team. Many of those that are online have been there. Belle, excuse me, was in attendance, and she provided the similar presentation to our team members to give everyone a heads up. December 21st, we notified the Division of Human Resources Executive Director, Ms. Debbie Nez-Manuel. January 17th, we started working actively with Belle twice a week. This requires a lot of intense work. Our meetings are like 2 hours twice a week. We're drafting our 477 plan. We're meeting with each of those departments that were listed on the first slide to get detailed information and getting the common themes, getting areas to make sure that we're touching every aspect of the plan. There's a lot of work that's involved. So it was addressed earlier that we're paving the road for further things to come down the road. So we're taking a brunt of the work right now. So it's going to be good that we're taking the lead in all of this. January 19th, Director Cody has ensured that there's full transparency because he's well aware that this 4-7 plan and the impacts that it could have for the Navajo Nation have been there. As we mentioned our intent with HR. We've mentioned it to all of these division directors, hopefully are also in attendance. Everyone throughout the nation has been invited to attend and is well informed of this whole process and the possibilities for the nation. January 23rd, we're beginning the process of requesting for a $25,000 planning grant. Continuing on, that planning grant is going to require a tribal resolution to apply for that grant. What it's going to allow us to do is to visit a tribe who has successfully implemented a 477 plan so we can see hands-on how that's working for them. It's also going to allow us to attend one of the conferences that Belle had mentioned, and this is the one that she said that was in Florida. So we're hoping to get through that grant so that we could participate in these for more education to our teams. So we're continuing to draft our plan. Today, we're hosting this information session. We're going to continue to try to meet regularly with OMB and OOC. In March, we're working through all of this to get to this point, to start our submission of the 477 plan through our own internal Navajo Nation process, the 164 process, to implement the 477 plan. It's going to run through its process here. with the hopes of submitting to the BIA for their 90-day review on June 30th. And as mentioned, Belle said that they do the 90 days, but there's chances too, if it's that well done, that it could be sooner. But our goal is to implement the division's 477 plan by October 1st. Okay, these are some of the benefits. Some of these Ray had already addressed, but specific to DSS, the plan is built by us and integrates all our services. So as mentioned, we're going through all of these right now. A comprehensive plan with a single budget. She gave a really good visual of that middle bucket that had the green middle bucket, and all we have the bigger departments who have large sums of money with the smaller ones. So all of this is all going to be under one budget now. Single reporting system, one report per year. Keep focus until we'll keep our funds until fully expended. So no more returning funds. Unifying our procedures for our client services. Creating the one-stop shop. These have been addressed by Ray. Allow DSS to collaborate and coordinate services more effectively, and ability to cross-train. This is really important here, the cross-training efforts, because she gave a good example of how with the ICWA client, how now each of us within our division are all going to know very well what each of the other departments do specifically. So we're going to become experts in being able to understand what's best for our clients and what services would best serve them. Which would also reduce the duplication of services. She also gave the example of the clothing, the school clothing. We're going to know that easier now and be able to track that. Administrative savings, the number of reports filed each year, it's definitely going to really reduce the amount of work that's being done administratively with our staff, as well as with an OMB and OOC. Okay, she touched on this a bit. Earned interest on lump sum drawdowns. Interest earned is reinvested to provide additional services under the plan. So those lump funds are gaining interest. Those drawdowns we can use toward other services within our plan, such as rent, such as transportation. Some of the challenges, when I was hearing Ray's plan and as I was learning through this process, it is very much a different concept to understand. All those slides that she went through, it's hard to grasp. I think that's probably one of the hardest things that we're going to have to address as a nation, is just understanding the true benefits of what it is. And I think all the more reason it's that great and that important that DSS is running with this from the get-go. So at any point, the plan will be in place and any other departments and divisions can jump on board. So that buy-in is important. Encouraging program directors, OMB, OOC to expend the oldest program carryover funds first. OMB is going to need to learn the 477 financial reporting. So this goes back to, as I said, we're going to need to have those regular meetings with them. Until carryover funds are expended, there will continue to be old reports to complete for each current siloed program. So there's still some cleanup that needs to occur here, but going forward, it's going to all be a lot easier. So we still have to manage this portion here. Collecting the details to create the 477 report. This is what we're going through now. This is what we're learning, and thankfully we're doing a good job at it because everyone on our team sees the benefits of this and we're all working really well together. That concludes where DSS is at and how it is that we've been implementing our plan. Thank you.
My question is, along with implementing the 477, and I did see that one of the goals that you have in your timelines was to package a 164 review document. Is that going to include changes to your plan of operations? Is that going to have to be a part of that process with restructuring and renaming some of your programs?
That is a different process. Good question. We thankfully have, like we mentioned, we met with the HES committee on January 31st. So we're now going through that process of approving that. So they're working simultaneously.
So our plan of operations also part of our whole initiative of rebranding. So yes, so when we submit our plan, it will carry the names, the programs, that they will be part of our plan when we submit it. So yes, so our plan of operation, we hope to have it approved within a month because it's in the system now. So it's probably at Latanya's office. So it's just two stops. I think it's DOJ, and then it goes back to oversight for to get a sponsor, and then into before oversight after the 5-day comment period.
Yeah, I just like to say thank you to everyone. And then also a huge thank you to Division of Social Service for taking this on. It's a long time coming for Navajo Nation. And I do truly support all the tribal sovereignty and initiative that's open to the Navajo Nation. I've been aware of this program for a long time, and I'm really proud of you taking the strong leadership to doing this because it is needed. We need to streamline our services and do better for our Navajo people. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Clarishma, for your support. So when it gets to the 5-day comment period, put those exact words in your comment period.
There's a question from Brenda in the chat. It says, any future plans to integrate other programs that have IGA within the division, as these programs also serve families?
So Brenda's probably referring to the state contract. So they're not a part of the 477 contracting. So Ray?
So even though that you're integrating the federal programs, you can certainly mention the alignment of how it affects your state programs in the plan. So they would run seamlessly. They're not under 477, but you're still ensuring that those are the offerings are cohesive.
For developmental disability and all texts, you all need to work with Frida to write them into the plan before we submit that.
You know, you're also getting state MOE monies for TANF.
Mm-hmm.
And you're still using those for the services, although they're not directly within the plan. You're still using that as a big funding source for a lot of your activities.
Tribes who operate or still continue to work with state-funded programs, tribal programs, and in their 477 plans, they would add a paragraph just to let the federal agencies know that they will still continue to work with the state agencies and how they're going to work with them. But also part of 477, and you'll see this in the annual report, if not already, there's a big piece in there about referring your clients to others non-federal programs. So take credit. I'm sure you do that on a daily basis when you're operating your programs. You may not be able to serve all, but you also have other state programs, tribal programs. So when you refer them, your clients or your tribal members to those programs, take credit for it and chalk it up and take that as a mark to providing the 477 services. But like I said, it's tribes put a paragraph in their 477 plan to let everybody know that they will still continue to work with state programs, tribal programs, describe how they're going to do it. And they're not integrating the programs. They're just saying that we are going to continue to work with. And by no means, we do not, 477, participating in 477, we do not eliminate that communication with each of the funding agencies. We still require them because I think somebody said, we're not the experts. The BIA is not the experts in HHS programs or any one of those 12 federal agencies programs. We still need them to communicate with us through the tribe, but we just ask that all communication pass through the BIA because we are the cognizant agency.
Hi, this is Chrysantia. I have a comment. I'm the program manager for the Navajo Indian Child Welfare Act program. We're super excited to be a part of this plan. In the approved plans that the program had reviewed, there was very little mention about Indian Child Welfare Act. So we're really excited to set precedents. We're currently serving over 700 children across the U.S. And so I think this is going to be new grounds for ICWA and being able to really look at being able to only provide one annual report on an annual basis is going to be very beneficial. So I'm not spending so much time gathering information to various reporting sources, but rather focusing on how we get the services out to the families.
My name is Delphina Benali, and I'm a principal social worker for the Navajo Nation Department of Family Services, currently one of the delegation for our department manager, Mr. Eric Gale. We have been participating in the project regarding the planning to integrate into the plan. A lot of our programs that we provide to the communities, children, and families are going to be part of the plan. And like Cynthia said, the same thing with our programs. There was very little tribal plans that we've seen out there that provides discussion on child welfare issues. So for me to provide the information that's needed, it's really challenging because we don't have that guidance to help us out. So we're kind of creating things from scratch. At the same time, it's exciting because we're going to be one of the first people, the first tribes to do that. So it is an overall learning experience. Certain things we have to kind of question a little bit more, like get specific information as to what does this plan, what is this really going to do for us? And we're a large tribe, so I think we're probably the one of the first largest tribes to try doing this plan. So it's new ground for all of us. But nonetheless, like I said, it's exciting. At the same time, it's scary. We're just trying to put in our information as best as we can, and hopefully, our plan gets completed and granted.
Thank you, Delphina. So the Department of Family Services also was the first Title IV-E contractor. So they've gone through this whole initiative before. So now what Delphina did talk about was Title IV-E brings a lot of reimbursements to the Navajo Nation, which we can use as towards prevention activities. So it's not only at first, but this is the second time where they're trekking new grounds. Shmahago. Ms. Miller is the Department of Self-Reliance Director.
Good morning, everyone, and those that are online listening. I am the department manager for Program for Self-Reliance, and we are a part of this initiative. We are probably one of the biggest programs that are participating in this effort. And to be a part of it has been it's been interesting to say the least, but it's also a learning experience for us because we are working alongside of our other programs within social services. We're embracing this initiative and we're going to move forward with it. And I think it's going to streamline a lot of our reporting and also our funding. So this is something, as you saw in the presentation by Ray, that this is something that the tribes across the United States are jumping on board with. So we're excited to move forward with this initiative, and we receive funding from Health and Human Services under the TANF program. So that's where our money comes from, and we will be using this funding for that purpose, for our purposes of providing assistance to our families. Thank you.
So when you work outside the nation, you can see the Navajo Nation budgets. You also see the amount of money that's reverted back to the federal government. So that's what my focus was. I told President, I'm gonna make sure I spend the money. And that's what I tell my department managers, spend the money, because those dollars that we have in the coffers here at Window Rock should be going out to the lowest level, which is the grandmas, the children, the aunts and the grandmas that are out at the Hogan level, that are still way out in the back roads. That's where our dollars should be. And I think rather than sending it back, this is an avenue where we can keep the money here and continue to spend it even after they expire.
Thank you, Mr. Cody. Hello, team. I just wanted to introduce myself, Natanya Kita Yanishia. I am the program manager for Department of Childcare, and I have not been able to participate in this awesome 477 initiative, but I'm excited about the no obligation and liquidation, which allows us the opportunity to serve more families. So I am going to introduce Deanna Neswood-Gishi, who is online, and she is revving to go. Thank you.
So I'm Deanna Neswood-Gishi, Department Manager for Department of Childcare and Development. And touching Nilashan Sinjigini Bashichin, Sinajini Dashiche, Nanasid touching Dashinawa. So just wanting to add in the perspective from Department of Childcare. We are currently having 120 team members, and we're going to probably have about another 40 coming on board within the next 3 to 6 months. So with childcare, it's a whole different ballgame with the funding that we receive from the Administration for Children and Families, Office of Childcare. So it's very specific of how we are going to use our funds, and sometimes it limits us. So when we have discussion about 477, it's going to allow us some flexibility, which we currently don't have. One example is we pay for our office spaces. So right now we can't have another program coming into our programs because we'd have to charge them a share of that space. Even though within social services, we have our, Antoinette Miller spoke a little bit earlier about her program. So if they have a training room that they do for computer training, other trainings, they have 2 locations, but we can't just go in there because of their funding. And so we at childcare start looking at trying to find a training room. So when we talk about is duplication, where staff at Department for Self-Reliance need a training room, childcare needs a training room, we're paying double to lease places to have computers, because that's what our funding restrictions are. So when we say 477, we can integrate those funds so that it loses that identity, so that we could have training rooms for our team members that we don't have to say, well, you're not childcare, so you can't come in. So this is a great opportunity where we can integrate our funds, reduce a lot of costs, a lot of duplication, just to be moving forward. Ms. Natanya Kita talked about obligation liquidation. That's like a monster in itself, because you have to have certain timelines to obligate and liquidate your funds. And, this is where we don't want reversion of funds because of our internal process. So this is where I see it as a great opportunity. A lot of families are looking at childcare. Again, right now, as of today, the big hindrance or challenge is their income. Where do you reside? Do you reside in this service area? What is your income? So again, this allows the tribes to have more flexibility of families that we're going to serve, and we can have more children receiving good childcare, whether it's in one of our 28 childcare centers on the Navajo Nation, or to work with off Navajo Nation childcare centers, as well as independent providers or relative providers. So I see it expanding for all of our families on Navajo. So we're ready to move forward with this initiative. Thank you very much, Director Cody and Mary and Belle.
Thank you. So the next individual I'd like to call up to provide some words is my fearless second in command, Marlinda. So Marlinda is the one that is the historian within the division. I'm a political appointee, but my deputy director, Marlinda, is a permanent employee. So that's where the continuation of services continues from one election to the next. And it's so good that they've set it up that way. Prior to me coming out, I would have been lost.
Thank you, Director Cody, and good morning, everyone, and to all those that are on the Zoom or the virtual meeting. My name is Marlinda Littleman, Deputy Division Director with Division of Social Services. So I too just want to extend my appreciation and gratitude to our staff members with the Office of Executive Director and also our managers. I know they've been putting a lot of time into working on this 477 plan. I think for me, I know that the transition, there will be a lot of transitions that we'll need to do. And under the leadership of Director Cody, I know he's providing a lot of support for us to make this change. And we have the capacity to do so. And with that, we are moving forward. And then just a couple of questions and comments for Belle and maybe Anthony on the line. I know, and maybe this is good information for those that are listening. If there's any current audits that we are working on, those will need to be closed out separately, is my understanding. That's still a transition that would need to happen before 477. And then the other thing that I really like, the one-stop shop. In my mind, there's a client that will come in just as express to see a receptionist and then take all their information, and there'll be an eligibility technician, and then that individual will be referred to the various programs. So I really like that concept and that idea. And I think we do also have the tool, which is the Tribal Assistant System, the TAS system. And so currently we're already working with we're contracted for IT services with the Eagle Sun consultant, and they do have softwares or modules that can help us to make that one stop possible as well. So I think we do have that ability to make the transition. And it sounds like we will need to do a lot of some changes to the policy, and those are for us will be internal. And then just a question also is when with the 477, I know it loses the funding loses its identity. So then are we able to use these fundings for infrastructure? So Belle, that question will be to you. Other than that, it sounds great. It sounds exciting. And I know for the deputies, and there is one other deputy in the audience here, will be tasked to make this transition as we move forward. So thank you, everyone.
So the question came up about infrastructure. So it's going to be really key in the plan. Currently, the child care development funds can be used for construction, for childcare facilities, but there's also the ability for them to actually build a facility, and tribes are doing it across the nation. Cherokee, Choctaw, Winnebago, Cookin. I mean, there's many tribes that have construction applications in. You can build a facility and rent out portions to other programs and services under that. So it's an opportunity. And right now there is a letter opportunity that you can submit for your FY21 funds to be used for construction. I would pay heed to that if it's even a possibility. It's just a letter of intent for a set aside, and you list the amounts that you want to reserve for that. It does go into the department, sent to Office of Child Care, but include that when you submit your plan. And you would list that might be one other area that would need to be addressed by the federal partner. So during that review. But so we can talk about more intricate parts of that, but that's certainly an opportunity now to set aside that money from FY21 so you don't lose it.
A question for our BIA representative. What are the benefits for BIA in taking on these bigger programs under 477?
I think the benefit is for the tribe to utilize BIA's expertise in how to streamline down the administrative burden. Our job is here whether Navajo Nation continues or not. So this is up to you. We're offering our services and our expertise on how to develop the plan. How you take it from here is your responsibility. The benefit, I get another tribe on board, but I do this all the time and I'm working actively. We've got about 32 tribes that are actively looking at developing 477 plans. We have 78 plans right now. We're busy. I'm just encouraged when tribes understand 477 and go through the process, and you internally build your capacity up. That makes me a better BIA person.
Thank you. One comment. I agree. Yes, a one-stop shop. This is a great plan for policies and CFR as well.
Maybe a little add to the question on benefits for BIA. In terms of federal funding, there are no benefits. All funding, 100% of that is transferred from the federal agency to Treasury, to BIA, to the tribes. So there's no benefit in terms of, funding for our division. The bigger benefit is on more benefit for the tribe and the consolidation. You're not running, we talked about all the consolidations, lowering administrative costs, flexibility, and all that. More so for the tribe. One of the benefits for our division is, as Belle indicated, that we are able to coordinate multiple federal programs and work on behalf of the tribe. So once your plan is approved, any changes, amendments outside of that plan will be addressed by the BIA. We'll work with each of the affected tribes. Any program instructions that change or final rules that come out from each of the federal agencies, those will be coordinated through the BIA to the tribe through an amendment process. So if you're looking at any benefit funding wise, no, we don't get any more money. 477 does not have any funds. It is a law that allows tribes to consolidate, and we just oversee it. But 100% of those funds, once received through Treasury, are transferred immediately to the tribe. So just want to make sure I clarify that. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Brenda Sosi. I work for Social Services. I'm the principal accountant. That's my official title. But I do work with the Family Assistance unit as well. That's where LIHEAP, CSBG, GA, all of that's in that section. So I do oversee that. I'm administering it for now while we hire someone soon. And I really like the concept of, single plan, single budget, single report. Because gosh, FAU, we call it FAU, Financial Assistant Unit, have so many reports. I got LIWAP, LIHEAP, CSBG, you name it. I get all these reports that I have to do, but I really do like that concept. And then one budget as well, because I do compile all the budgets each quarter, and then we're like over 800 million. That's how much DSS has. So doing this one budget, one plan and one report will very be helpful. So I'm really supportive of this as well. And I'm excited. And then thank you to Mary and also Belle. Yes, that you were able to help us too, with the plan. So I was excited. I was kind of like pushed into it. And after I really learned about it, I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be such a wonderful plan for the division and for the Navajo Nation. Thank you.
So I have one more director, Anthony Begay. Can you come online and address the meeting and also what your work is, Anthony?
Yate, my name's Anthony, and then I'm the program manager for Navajo Treatment Center for Children and Families. The plan I like to have is a Hogan setting with a chao and then a horse corral, and then this would be our treatment facility. And a lot of times we say that we have forgotten our way of taking care of ourselves, and then so as a treatment facility program, then how best way to utilize this 477 plan to implement the thought that we have to regain our culture and custom back by utilizing our strength in Almonte's case. So I think with this 4-7 plan, then we definitely would benefit our people, help our people, and reach those that are living out in the sticks and behind the hills. They'll recognize that we are going to serve them. Case, it's just the cases. I'm in support of the 477, and thank you for the time here and listening to you all.
So thank you, Anthony, for providing those words and also for your support of the project. So I think we'll wrap it up here. But before I go do the close, I'd like to call up Shenanta, Mr. Brown, Deputy Director Brown, to provide our closing remarks and also what his take is on the 4-7 initiative that the Division of Social Service is embarking on. So Shenanta.
Yate she trobahan shlo look bashashin ki ani dashe hadot lana dashanala. Thank you, Shenanta Director Cody. Ado Division of Social Service Jin Dathnashi Hihet Nahalchen Bik Edadno Edo Nihik Edo Nihidene Ahuiche na Bandashnish Koho. I do appreciate this 477. I quickly Googled it yesterday evening. And a lot of good news. I'm actually on another federal call with Child Support Services. I'm wondering if this could be implemented into that as well. So as you're aware, the federal agency there also waive the matching funds for the Navajo Nation. So it's really good news. Now, how do we tackle all the other federal agencies to do the same, right? But I think this is a great step forward. I really want to talk from the nation side on our processes on this side, and that's something that we're tackling. We are doing amazing things with our software purchase, so we want to make sure that we are in line, and we really need to continue to spend a lot of the federal dollars, and that's our goal under this administration. I want to highlight listening to all the conversations and taking this back to our people. So this is good news for our people. And what we hear from them is, how do we get these dollars to the communities? We're very privileged Navajo people here in Wendourok. we have, but what we're worried about, who we want to focus on under President Nygren is really the people. We're still living in these conditions, and we want more. We'll work together in creating more efforts similar to 477. So we can, I can't stress that enough, on getting these services to our people. And this is one great step forward. So I'm glad that BIA will be a technical assistance, but within our division, we, on the workforce side, we held an amazing meeting yesterday also. So we are starting a task force where we're bringing in our local Dene College, Navajo Technical University, other nonprofits and technology companies, where we can work together to streamline some of these services. So a lot of keywords that I saw in your presentation and looking online, streamlining, and where the nation stands in some of these funding is, the cultural aspects of it, language. And for myself personally, that's something that I'm glad that these funds it could be allocated for those. Really, I think that this is a small step towards healing our people. And we need more of this. So thank you. This is for the team who, Mary and everyone else who has been working on this. On behalf of Division of Human Resources, and however way we can be of any assistance, we'll be here on standby as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Shananta. Thank you for your work, and also for Mary again. Thank you, Ray, Anthony, for joining us today. And then those of you online, yeah, there's still 92 people online. So we'll wrap up here. We'll close out. We won't have an afternoon session, but I'm thinking because of the number of people that are online, I would like to do another session, maybe virtually, a virtual session for delegates, because we had 3 delegates that came. Dr. Nez's assistant, Shema, Delegate Crotty is online. Also, there's another delegate I saw there that was online. So, but what we're doing with this, the next step is continue working on the plan, continue cleaning up what we're putting together. And then over here, the Zoom, we'll clean that up. Areas that were a little choppy, we'll cut those out. By next week, we should be able to put it online. Maybe the Navajo DIT is on. Maybe we can ship it over there and have them play it. And also we'll send it to all the delegates and OOC, OMB, because we want to give them a heads up. This is what we're doing. We've sent out letters, but I think I just want to saturate Navajo with 477 initiative. So thank you again for joining us, and you all have a good day. We'll give you the next 2 hours back. So yeah, thank you.